What are some powerful presentation techniques that you're like, cool, I love saying this?
You're not forcing them to have an idea about it. They're actually taking ownership, quite literally and figuratively, of the idea. And then from there, you pull back that sheet out. You're like, yeah, so this is exactly what you're doing, but it's the inverse. It actually costs you less to own it than it is to rent it because the rates are going up. And what I've also noticed is how my retention rate and my realization rate is actually like, I'll take the piece of paper and I'll give it to them.
Yeah, what are some powerful presentation techniques that you're like, cool, I love saying this, or this is like an emotional builder, or this helps overcome their belief system around debt, or this, you know what I mean? Do you have kind of your favorite, this is my go-to value build, or, objection block?
Yeah. So what I'll do is I'll literally do apples to apples, side by side, what they're paying with, let's say, Duke Energy versus what they're paying with solar. And I'll just kind of reiterate, because obviously you can show them on a computer screen, you can do all these cool spreadsheets and programs and whatever, but I like to actually take a pen and draw it out for them. And what I've also noticed is how my retention rate and my realization rate is actually I'll take the piece of paper and I'll give it to them after the meeting's over, after the appointment's over, after they've already signed, and as a souvenir, so they can look back on it and be like, okay, this is why I did solar. They'll see apples to apples. In 7 years, they saved $6,500 by doing nothing differently. And just getting them to realize that this is a bill you're already gonna have to pay anyway, right?
Yeah. I'm not buying anything new. I'm not that. That's the new frame. The new belief system you have to make in solar is, I'm not buying anything new. It's, you're already buying power. So stop trying to tell me that this is a new, oh man, I don't know if I can afford all this newness. I'm like, what do you mean? Let's look at this apples to apples.
And then when you do it like that, apples to apples, because everyone wants to see that. Another thing I've noticed is I'll take a step back after I draw that all out, and I'll ask them a question, right? So this is how you know they appreciate ownership, and you want them to appreciate ownership. So I'll say hey, Janice and Kurt, you moved in this house 17 years ago. If someone said to you 17 years ago, you can rent this house from me for $1,000 a month, or you can own it for $1,300, what would you say? And I'll just stop. And they're like, well, you probably own it. I'm like, why? Well, because now we own it, and 17 years later, right, we want to own it. I'm like, bingo.
That's a Sam line. That's a Sam line. That's my line. I love it.
Yeah. So then you're not forcing them to have an idea about it. They're actually taking ownership, quite literally and figuratively, of the idea. And then from there, you pull back that sheet out. You're like, yeah, so this is exactly what you're doing, but it's the inverse. It actually costs you less to own it than it is to rent it because the rates are going up.
Love that. Okay, so do you have any kind of good follow-up system? Let's say somebody says no. I mean, when you're juggling 50, is there any go backs, or is it just kind of dude, I'm on to the next, or I'm really good at following up and it's third, fourth, fifth touch that I might get them, and are you picking up a lot of pieces this month, and you know what I mean? Walk me through that.
No, the best follow-up system for me in solar is just filling your pipeline up.
Yeah, just kind of get new deals. If they're not interested then, and you gave them 100%.
Yeah, because in my opinion, and this is something a lot of us have talked about, is after I leave that door, they see the back of my head, 95% chance they're not going solar. I have had deals that were big systems, 30 kilowatt systems out here that obviously need a lot more time. It's a $152,000 contract or $148,000 contract. But those are few and far between. I'm not gonna spin my wheels on someone. I might follow up a few times, but I know if they're not gonna do it right now, I'm on to the next, because my time is more valuable than chasing people around.
So this is, I think, the difference. Okay, so I was asked this question yesterday. I was interviewed on a podcast. I'm going to pose the same question to you here in a second, but I really think this is a very difference between that I'm a badass closer and I'm new and I freaking have a paycheck and a rent to pay this month and I'm dying and I need a sale, right? So if you're training new people, how do you help them see this abundance mentality, walk away cocky, like I do everyone, I don't effing care, when they haven't yet? You know what I mean? Like, they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, I got a bag of maybes. I'm going to hold on to this bag of maybes and callbacks as much as I can because that's all I got. Like, how do you train that? How do you train this cocky, I walk out that door, I'm on to the next. If I didn't close you right now, like, I don't know what I would have said to close you later. Like, how do you have that?
So I wouldn't necessarily call it cocky. I'd call it a little bit more confident.
Confident.
In our abilities. But like, I set the precedent with all my guys pretty early. It's like, hey, the best way to combat anything, any doubt, any uncertainty, any lack of money is just fill your pipeline up. So basically what that means is like for example, this month, my top guy, who is 29 days in the solar industry, by the way, shout out Kareem, he probably made over, I don't know, can we talk numbers or?
Sure, why not?
Okay. Over 40, 50 this month, right? In his first 29 days. The reason that was because, cool, he got 3 deals in one day, but he's already looking for his next 4. You just can't let, because also another thing about our space is like there's a realization rate to it. Like there's cancels, there's people that have, cold feet, things like that. So you just have to fill your pipeline enough to the point where you're not worried about Janice, who you helped out 2 weeks ago, and she has some issue with her daughter and she's got to cancel. It's like you've already sold 40 or helped 40 people. So to the point where it's okay, sure, let me know when you're ready.
Here's what I think the problem is, and correct me if I'm wrong, is it's in solar. It's, let's say I make $3,000 in a commission or something. And if I'm like, okay, I only need 2 sales a month or 1 a week to make a phenomenal lifestyle. And so they have 1 to 3 appointments a week because they're like, I'm going to probably close those 1 to 3 appointments. And that's going to give me my 1 a week that then is going to give me my lifestyle enough to live. And that's how they operate in the solar space. And I'm like, whoa, you're a spreadsheet millionaire. You're somebody that's constantly calculating the future earnings of like what you could be doing minimally to get. And I'm like, we need to cut that out. Like it needs to be like I guess, what are your thoughts on that? Because it's so common to watch these people come in and like the minimum I need to do is XYZ, and then they end up still broke because of that mindset. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
That's a great question. One of the main things we do like during our trainings and orientation, when we have a whole new wave of guys coming in, it's like, hey, the problem with solar is it pays way too much. So you're going to get comfortable off of 1 or 2 deals a week, 3 deals a week, but like, we're not here to do that. And if you want to do that, like maybe this isn't the place for you. And we kind of set that precedent pretty early. It's like, we're not here to just, get by and pay the bills and, and have a little bit of money left over. We're here to legitimately take over and transform like our family tree's lives for generations to come. And this is the vehicle to do that, if any. So just setting the standard pretty early for your guys, because a lot of these guys, like, this is their first big break, right? Like where they come in and they can make a lot of money pretty quickly. But setting that stage for them, and again, it all comes down to like expectations. Like going back to the closing thing, there's not one thing you can say or one word or one phrase that's going to be like, all right, I'm in, I'm signing. It's a conglomeration of things, and it's also setting the standard of like what they're coming into.
Love that. So let's say I'm getting into the solar space and I'm new, or even just in door-to-door in general. Like, what advice would you give me?
Yeah, one of the main things, or these are some of the things I look for in new hires, is one, you have to be coachable. So you got to be willing to strip away your old ideas. Like I came from an enterprise sales background, way different sale, way different background. Like our bread and butter was the follow-up. Our bread and butter here isn't the follow-up, at least for my team. So then I'd say be coachable. They have to be disciplined. So if you just show up, like number one rule of success is just showing up. So every day, if you just show up, you give yourself an at bat. And then disciplined, and then hardworking, like just consistency. So I think if you're coachable, disciplined, and you have consistency, like there is absolutely nothing you can't do in this space. Because if you're coachable, you're willing to relearn and unlearn things, and
I love it.
you'll show up no matter what. And if you're consistent, like you're gonna get deals. It's just a law of averages game at the end of the day.